So, has the penny dropped for Uncle Dave? Does Dave Meltzer finally get what the problem is? I'm going to play a clip for you here in a minute, but let me discuss this. My main problem with Dave Meltzer is that he will not come out and say what the true problem of AEW is. And anybody who knows this business knows, or anybody who follows this business can instantly point out what the problem is. It's uh, it's Tony Khan and Tony Khan's booking. Um, I'm gonna have a separate video covering this here, and probably either today or tomorrow. But Nick Nemeth, or Ryan Nemeth, not Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, Nick Nemeth's brother, has filed a lawsuit against AEW for the way he was treated and the way he was handled. He contributes a lot of it to CM Punk. And Meltzer says, oh, well, Punk was in charge of the Collision show. No, he wasn't. Okay? And I guarantee you Punk would be the first person to tell you that he was not, quote unquote, in charge. He may have had a lot of influence, and Tony Khan may have told him, hey, this is your show. But going even back, well, I won't get into it here. Tony Khan's in charge. It's Tony Khan's company. At the end of the day, Tony Khan has final say on everything, whether it comes across his desk or not. If it happens on that TV show, Tony Khan is responsible for it. All right? It's as simple as that. If it's on that TV show, Tony Khan is responsible for it. Now, fast forward to the Continental Classic, which is their version of the G1, which, I got to be honest with you, the G1 works in Japan because it's in Japan. Because Japan, Gato and Jado, Jado I don't think is booking anymore, but Gato knows how to book that stuff. He knows how to do it right. He knows how to take his top stars and put them in this tournament. And even though they lose, they're still over them more than before the tournament began. For some weird reason. Part of it is that the Japanese people over there, the Japanese fans, are respectful. They're not quote unquote sickos. They don't, they can pick apart the booking, but at the same time, they get it, as opposed to us Americans. Such and such loses one time, oh, they're a jobber. No. People have to win and lose. Anyway, Juice Robinson is injured and is out of the tournament. Therefore, Tony Khan has tapped Commander, that Commander, to take his place. And this is what Dave Meltzer had to say about Commander being in the tournament, as well as the overall notion that Tony Khan seems to have of people just wanting to see good matches, as Tony Khan said. I never will forget that press conference. The autism / Asperger's really began to show when he said it like that. People just want to see good matches. Anyway, here's what Meltzer had to say about Commander being in the tournament and AEW's overall booking philosophy. Take a listen.
That's why Commander's in. We'll talk about Commander. We should probably talk about Commander very soon, too, because that's another issue.
Let's talk about it right now.
All right. So he was replaced.
No better time than the present.
Okay. He was replaced by Commander. And, Commander's going to have 4 really big matches. He had a match tonight on, he had a match with Ricochet tonight, which I heard was fantastic. He's got a couple others. Who's else in that block? But he'll have 3 more matches after tonight, right? Yeah, 3 more matches after tonight in that block. Nothing against Ospreay because Ospreay already won his match. So, I mean, it's the funniest part of this is that when he got hurt, and I was thinking like, who could replace him? This is like what's so freaking weird. My thought was, if it was up to me, not up to me, let me take that back. I would really love for Commander to be in that spot. But my thought was, that would be a terrible idea. But I would love it because he's going to go out there and have great matches. But it'd be a horrible idea because you're putting a guy who never wins in this prestigious tournament. And then lo and behold, the next day, Tony says, Commander's in. No storyline reason. I mean, of all the guys on the roster, you're putting a guy, and I don't know his 1-loss record. I don't know it's 4-25 or whatever it is, but it's bad. It's a bad 1-loss record, and you're putting him in this tournament. And at least on tonight's show, all they showed was Tony's tweet, and there was absolutely no explanation on why he would be in. Like, I thought at best, what they could have done on tonight's show, I think I said it on Monday, is get guys, put in some top guys in there and have a 4-way. Winner gets in the tournament in the spot. And, you can throw Commander in the 4-way with 3 top guys and have him get an upset win. And it's like, at least he earned it. At least, okay, now it's like there's a reason. He scored this great upset. He's in the tournament. We don't even have that. We have what explanation is there? And I know some people have said to me and go, oh, why are you so mad? We're going to get a bunch of good matches. Okay. Guess what? We get good matches every Wednesday night on this show. We get good matches on most Fridays and most Saturdays. That formula of just good matches for the sake of good matches, it doesn't work. And it's like, if there's anything that people should have learned from the last year, is that in and of itself doesn't work. That you put guys out there, you beat them all the time, even though they always have good matches, the ratings are not good for those guys. I mean, even frickin' Kyle Fletcher, until he beat Will Ospreay, he would go out there. God, the guy had incredible matches losing. Takeshi used to have incredible matches losing. They meant nothing for ratings because they lost all the time. And even when they start winning, they don't mean anything at first because it takes time to rebuild from the idea that these guys are enhancement talent jobbers, whatever you want to call them. And people aren't going to watch in great numbers squashes. You put squashes on WWE television, their numbers drop too. Sometimes you have to do them. Sometimes there's storyline reasons to do them. I'm not saying eliminate them. Sometimes you have to beat people. You have to, have 4-minute matches and beat people. Sometimes it's really cool to have a great action match with a guy like Commander. If Commander won a whole bunch of those matches and then lost a few, obviously the people beating him would mean more. But it doesn't because he hasn't. So now it's like, yeah, we're going to get great matches. If that's all you want out of AEW, you're going to be in the minority. You need more than that. And it was just so frustrating because it's like the end result is not a bad one of Commander being in the tournament. Like many things, the execution of putting him in the tournament, why would he be in the tournament out of all the guys? Why not Buddy Matthews? Won the 4-way. Commander was in it. Mortis was in it. Why is Buddy Matthews not in the tournament? Mortis and Commander are both in it. Neither of them won that match. Why is Malachi Black not in this tournament? The guy never loses, right? He's lost like 2 singles matches in 3 years. Why isn't Roosh in the tournament? Why isn't, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. And I know the idea is like, well, maybe you don't want these guys to lose matches. And it's like, that's a big problem. And
So it seems that Meltzer has the same questions that I do and the same philosophies that I do. Good matches will only get you so far. You have to have storylines. You have to have logic. You have to have reasoning for everything, to make sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. It's just good matches for the sake of being good matches. People just want to see good matches. No. WWE has proved, and has always proved, I think, that other than the matches, you have to have a storyline. You have to have a reasoning behind the good matches in order for things to make sense. And here's my question to you, Dave Meltzer. And this is what I want to know. People sit there all the time. Well, he bashes AEW. He's been bashing AEW since day one. He's never said that AEW was perfect. Well, here's my counter to that. Here's a guy who has an open communication line with Tony Khan. He's openly admitted to texting him and talking to him, and all the times that he's been to AEW shows and has probably sat down with Tony Khan. Why aren't you saying this to Tony Khan? It's one thing to say it to your listeners. It's one thing to say it to people like me. It's one thing to say it to fans. We can't change it. We can't change it. It's obvious that we can't change it because the ratings keep dropping, the ticket sales keep dropping, the buy rates keep dropping. And yet, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Hell, if anything, they get worse. So my question to you, Dave Meltzer, is why don't you pick up your little boomer flip phone? Because we all know that's what you have. Why don't you pick up your little boomer flip phone from the early 90s, dial Tony Khan's phone number, and tell him what's going on? Tell him, hey, your booking sucks. You need to change it. I didn't clip the audio, but Meltzer even goes on that same radio broadcast to say, hey, you have to start making sense. Things have to start making logical sense. Now, Meltzer contends that these guys are in a wrestling war. I don't think it's ever been a war. There's no such thing as wrestling wars when DVRs are here and you can watch what you want anytime you want. The one thing we don't hear about, and what I would be curious to see, is what an AEW Dynamite or Collision's ratings are in the 7-day overlap. Meaning, when you record something, as long as you watch it within 7 days, it counts towards the 7-day rating. So I'd be curious to see if when you add in the 7-day rating formula, how AEW really ranks in the thing, in the grand scheme of things. I don't think it'll change that much. But anyway, I just think, Dave, you gotta. He even says we don't want this to end up like WCW. We don't want this to end up like TNA, which has never made sense. And to be honest, I wanted AEW to succeed. Did I ever think it really would? No. Because I saw Tony Khan from what he really was. I did my research and found out that this guy was on Prodigy Chat and all the forums and e-feds. And when I sat there and I saw that, I'm just like, oh my God, the guy's a money mark. Money Mark Khan is what I've called him. And it turns out I was right. I was 100% right. But my question to you, Meltzer, again, why aren't you picking up the phone since you have a communication line with Tony Khan and you puff out your chest and go, I've talked to Tony Khan, I've talked to this person, I've talked to that person. Well, when you talk to that person, why don't you sit there and say, hey, your booking is fucking things up? Why don't you say that? Oh, because you're afraid you won't get free tickets. Oh, because you're afraid you won't get free pay-per-views. Oh, because you're afraid you won't get invited back to any of the press scrums. Oh, because you're afraid you might lose your access. So it's all about. You can sit there and bash us podcasters all you want to, saying that we just want to keep our access to WWE, which I don't have any, by the way. But it's you, my friend, who really are afraid of losing your access because you know WWE doesn't want anything to do with you. And TNA is your last, or TNA, AEW is your last foot in the door. And once that door slams shut, you're left out in the cold. You don't know where to turn to after that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's pretty obvious that people just don't want to see good matches. And that people want storylines too. And is Dave Meltzer just preaching to the choir? Does he? I mean, he needs to pick up the. Should he pick up the phone? And I want the conversation on tape and played on the air. Should Dave Meltzer pick up the phone, call his buddy Money Mark Khan, Tony Khan, the snowman, say, hey, put down your mirror and your straw for 5 minutes and listen to me. Because I got some thoughts on how you can turn this whole thing around. Or are we just going to end up with, the status quo never changing because Meltzer doesn't want to lose his access? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I personally think that Meltzer just needs to. It's time to put up or shut up for you, Meltzer. That's all there is to it. Anyway, folks, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you down the road.